Welcome to LaTB, the only podcast that comes with a free Bandits bonus.
Express delivery included.
LaTB, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the LaTB podcast.
Welcome back. We have the morning after one of the most star-studded events we've had in a while. Newark showing up. The president's son making an entire big deal about this fight card.
Both sons.
A couple. Does he have more than two?
3, I think.
Probably
But
like
I
8
think
or
only
9.
2 were
Probably
there.
like 8 or 9 unofficially. But it's definitely been some of the highest recognition the UFC has ever seen, having a fighter directly contacted after his bout by the President of the United States. I don't give a shit about your political preferences. The President of the United States called one of our athletes. That's the first time ever. Like, people need to make a bigger deal of that, regardless of your affiliation, honestly.
It's the first time people cannot get their political affiliations out of the way.
Right?
It's the first
so
time
crazy.
in history.
It doesn't matter who you are. It's the president.
I think it's pretty crazy, but everybody hates Colby.
Everybody.
It made them blind to what we weren't blind to.
Not at all.
We weren't blind, but it made them blind to how this fight was going to go. People were tweeting out, like, famous UFC fighters were tweeting out, like, Robbie, you disappointed America.
Who were these people? I didn't end up seeing those. Those
I
are
could
brutal.
find a whole bunch of tweets afterwards. I was watching
brutal.
those, like, MMA news and, like, those 10-minute edited videos on YouTube this morning.
Oh,
that
okay.
Was, like, all the fight breakdown, and everybody was just, like, sad face, Robbie Lawler.
We trying to tell you it's not about the political stuff. It's about the fighter. Colby is a better fighter at this point in time. Robbie 5 years ago, different fight. But it's not then. It's now. And nowadays, he's going to get walked through by wrestlers who have usually been his hardest challenges in the UFC there. But we have all sorts of stats for that one at the end of the night. We always start from the bottom to the top. There's been somewhat news going down. We had 2 fighters actually miss weight for this fight card. And the weigh-ins is where we should probably start off because it was a shit show. Newark really ended up having one of the worst towel situations I ever seen in my life. There was a guy standing in front of the scale trying to hold it singularly. Then his buddy would come in and then they'd almost drop it. Then they started using like the soccer wall to try to help cover fighters on the corners. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
He almost saw everybody's junk.
100%. They were trying to do like that, tuck behind a towel trick show on America's Got Talent or Europe's Got Talent.
It was like magic show.
Exactly.
They were like, a rabbit coming out of my hat. That ain't a rabbit. That ain't a rabbit.
It's furry, but that ain't gonna do it. So, other than the weigh-ins, we had a short notice replacement. Williams come in 6 pounds over. The 35-year-old just hasn't fought in almost 2 years now and really didn't have a good showing. It was about 2 weeks out, so little bit of leeway there. But your boy Ma came in and woo, he was heavy by a good 3 pounds as well. But
Didn't help him out.
Not at all. And there was, I believe, the towel pulled out more times than I'd ever seen. No hoop of shame, but definitely the towel of judgment was out multiple times. I think 7 or 8 guys ended up using that towel.
Wow.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
That
Unreal.
humidity in Newark is real. Hard to cut that weight.
Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but things are huge. We tend to go over the top around here. So maybe it wasn't 7, 8, but it was more. Huge. Absolutely huge. Anything else prior to the fights? We ended up having, I saw a slide sliding through there. Colby Covington before the fights having a little bit of the Kevin Lee on the shoulder were alluding to.
Yeah, it looked like it was just a wee bit fishy.
A little bit
fishy.
staff.
Yeah.
What was your take on that boil, on that mark on his chest?
I never could see it close enough to make an assessment, but if I just went by what antibiotics would usually affect with the cardio, no sign at all.
He wasn't on those antibiotics
yet.
But with that exact same fact that you're saying, when Kevin Lee fought Tony Ferguson, he didn't start antibiotics because he knew it would kill his cardio.
Oh, shit.
And so he had a staff without anything on purpose. He was like, I'm not going to even let the doctor know till after the fact because it's going to eat my cardio alive.
Smart.
So it didn't work out for Lee either, but that is just an interesting point that we had going into it. My thoughts on it was, even if it is staph, this is a D1 wrestler who has had staph since he was 8 years old wresling in Oregon mats. Like, he knows how to deal with staph. He knows how to deal with staph. He knows if it was there.
He's immune to staph.
To an extent. Who was that? Randleman, who ended up having staph on his chest. You could see his, like, rib cage and lung through his shoulder. It was crazy. It was crazy. So, been there, done that. Colby Covington, still coming through. I don't think it was staph. It was probably just that Marky Mark third nip situation he's really got going on.
Maybe.
So, other than that, weigh-ins, pre-weigh-ins issues, anything else?
I don't think that's it.
From the bottom
and the fights changed. So Goldie ended up being the first fight.
This is right, because we actually had a humongous problem here with Goldie and the Danger Granger being on the main card, regardless of where you're at. It's a double debut. It should always be the first fight of the entire night. Early prelims should always be the double debuts, and if there's two of them, guess what? You stack them on top of each other, one after the other.
Yep.
Other people are in their spots. So Danger Granger came in, debuting against Goldie, who had fought in the Contender Series. The humongous favorite of the two, ended up getting picked apart. Leg kicks playing a big role. Goldie never really got anything going. She tried to throw strikes, but there was times where I saw her literally grabbing the cage and kicking backwards like you would be Elias Thoreauing, and they're kicking your little brother right in the stomach to get him off of you. It was just a really poor showing for Goldie. She never really got it going. Or is it that Granger just was on it? She was moving forward, kicking that leg apart nonstop on the ground. Wasn't able to get it there, but it didn't matter. Granger's offense just pretty much shut down everything that Goldie had coming, and she really didn't have a shot.
Goldie just looked completely out of her element, and that she had no business being in the UFC yet, where Granger, you want to say she showed out, but it just looked like Goldie was that low of a level.
Honestly, it didn't look bad, but this is the interesting thing also with Goldie, was that she won a decision in the UFC, and we had fighters that had way better showings that didn't get contracts because the division's light and they needed a little infusion of people in there. You get Goldie, and now you're like, okay, this might be a steady fade train on the way out of here. Or did Granger look that good? Because I'm really hesitant on Granger because Goldie looked that bad. I'm like,
I agree more that way. I got to see more caliber competition.
Totally agreed with that. So definitely going to be hesitant with either one of those ladies moving forward. Throw them against anyone. You got to fight. On to 100 and... where did we go? 70 pounds. We had Claudio Silva coming in against Cole Williams, short notice replacement, being 6 pounds overweight, not even trying to lose it. We usually bet with these guys, but as we were telling you before, biggest favorite on DraftKings, one of the locks of the night. Everybody saw it coming. Everyone just knows Silva's way better. He eventually got it to the ground, ate a couple shots on the way in, but Williams didn't even offer retaliation shots, honestly. He just pretty much was... meat to the slaughter. He walked in there and just was like, okay, all right, I guess this is what I got to do here. Can't really take much away from Silva. If he fights caliber UFC fighters that are especially younger, there's going to be time to fade this aging vet at 170 pounds. But as of right now, if he keeps getting William-esque type fighters, if he fought his original opponent, Evie, probably pick those type of fighters. Good people that can keep it off the ground, but anybody with a suspect ground game right now is going to be eaten alive.
If you went with Silva as your linchpin, you were very happy to just get that one out of the way. I had him on like half my cards, and I was very happy about it.
The only reason I didn't make him my linchpin was because he was the most expensive fighter of the night, and I feel like that's too obvious, but that's where we both actually, interestingly enough, went with Jim Miller as our linchpin, and that ended up working out a little bit.
That was great.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Anything left with those guys? Williams, if he gets in their shot, he's lucky. Yeah. I don't know, because he missed weight. Like, he's got nothing going for him.
Silva's becoming one of those guys, his hand, that is kind of one-dimensional, but maybe these guys that started out one-dimensional are so crisp in one area. If they're like Silva, where I can see, like, his hands look a little improved, but it was also against Williams, so I'm tentative about him going forward, and like you're saying about Williams, I'm gonna not really ever put too much cloud in him.
100%. On to 125 pounds, we had a big underdog just throughout the night as well showing up. We had Lauren Murphy against Mara Romero Barella. This was a TKO round number 2, or now round number 3. Sorry about that. It was, Murphy really using that veteranship, taking it later in the round, letting Barella gas. In that first round, winning Barella's second round, more Lauren Murphy. Third round, Barella had nothing left in the gas tank, got mounted, and Murphy looked better than she ever has in there. I kind of think that gas tank played a big role as well as the veteranship. Once Barella realized, like, I'm in a dogfight, she kind of gave up a bit, and she went out. Murphy hasn't... I can't remember the last time Murphy had a TKO finish in that fashion, but Barella was night. There was a couple finishes.
She actually said it's never been the training, it's never been the skill. She got a sports psychiatrist, and that she was blowing her wad pretty much under the lights. She just was not performing, and she said that her sports psychiatrist have helped her really put her energy, compartmentalize it perfectly, and she has no problem. She feels like she'll go out there and she has some fights left to win. And after her hearing about the sports psychiatrist, I feel like Lauren Murphy's going to be a live underdog on fights to come. I don't think anyone's going to give her credit because of her age.
I agree. I was on that bandwagon a long time ago. I always liked her as an underdog, but she had just, for so many fights, shit the bed essentially, that I'm like, I can't put stock into it. I like what you're saying. I'm going to be paying attention from now on Murphy. She's going to take a little bit of break from here at 125. Either lady can get anybody in the division in there, and it's going to end up being a interesting matchup. Barella's got a few fights because she's young enough. She's only still, 25, 26 years old, so they got plenty of fights left for either one. Staying in the 125-pound division, we're going to move on to an underdog of Matt Schnell coming in against Jordan Espinoza. We had Cheney switching on the cast 3 times.
Yeah.
Ultra decisive. Didn't know what was happening. We ended up finally staying with it. We didn't give you a PMP, but in the top running for that was Matt Schnell and Pudilova. Ended up not being able to pull the trigger on it.
I'm kind of glad you didn't, because when you added Pudilova to it, it was a 50-50 that it could have sheet the bid. So I'm glad you were like, you know what, I'm not going to ever push it if I'm not feeling, because you want it to have like where it always
ultra
carries
confidence
over that 85%. It always has to be a B+.
100%.
So
100%. So with Schnell, I feel like if you listen into the breakdowns here, you're listening that Matt Schnell has an advantage on the ground. Exactly as I said. As soon as Espinoza took it down, because
but did you also say that Espinoza was going to be in control on top, or was that a different fight?
That was a different fight.
Okay.
That was a different fight. That
I
was
just
Giles.
thought it was funny how it finished with this one. Yeah, it was Giles.
It was Giles. And that worked out exactly as I said as well. Well, pretty
Not
close.
at all.
Pretty close.
Not at all.
Pretty close.
No. Because if it went exactly as you said, you would have put Beerford on your cards.
I would have won. I would have won, I guess. So, we didn't get much. 1:23 with Schnell versus Espinoza. Can't take much from it other than Schnell's going to keep being a dirty little underdog in there. Jordan Espinoza's second fight in the UFC
You don't think he's going to get any credit his next fight, Schnell? Like, people aren't like, he's back.
I think they might, because I was on that already. I'm saying this guy finally put it together.
I wish you were right. I wish it was that they kept him as an underdog. That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
But they might not. With these guys at 125, who do you give them? Second fight for Espinoza, first loss in the UFC. He's lost a few times in there, but in the UFC, he's now had a tarnished record. Anybody for him? Schnell, he's got to get those top 15 guys now. He's on a winning streak.
Ready for a name, but still not up high enough where
not a top 10.
We don't get to match make it.
I like that. Staying in the 125-pound division, we ended up having a solid favorite come in against Lucy Pudilova. We had Shevchenko come in and prove us wrong. She ended up being on that winning card, having over 100 points in the first round. Woo! They don't want Shevchenko. I'm sorry, girl. I'm sorry. My bad. I'm not gonna say it anymore. Shevchenko. Please.
That's true too.
She's gonna come in. The bullet's gonna come in and be like, "What? What?"
She's gonna come in and dance.
The little emoji lady.
No, it isn't Shevchenko. She really showed out. She proved to me. If she can grow this much leaps and bounds from this shot to now, those women are so dangerous. We got to see her use something that's the most dangerous thing to her sister. I think that her sister started to utilize when she started to come on strong and really make a run at being this top echelon, that tie clinch. And Antonia has a little more height than her sister, might be a little better at using it if she really locks it up.
Antonia got cut up, though, by one of those elbows in that clinch.
She did get cut up on the far side.
It was really good that she didn't falter, because a lot of other fighters would be like, ow,
I think if you actually look back at those, she landed a lot more than Pudlova landed on her. She just got that nasty cut over that sweet spot over the eye. But, gosh, and then to submit her. And then to turn out and submit her, put her right to sleep.
This is like her second finish ever out of her 9 fights.
Yeah.
For Shevchenko. So.
Yeah. But Pudlova's no walkthrough in the UFC. I think older sister Shev is... she needed the win, and I know you eked, but you had Pudlova to win.
I know.
So I'm just saying she's not just a walkthrough. I do think older sister Shevchenko should have been the underdog here, and this would have even been more so of like a victory. But the fact that she submitted her, so she's not just a one-trick pony in there. I think she's dangerous. I think she improved herself, and I think it was devastating. It was devastating. I'm proud of her.
It's good for her. At 125, we could see her versus Lauren Murphy. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm picking Lauren Murphy against Shevchenko right now.
Lauren Murphy.
Who just won earlier at 125 against Barella.
I don't know, because Barella's kind of... I feel like...
I think Pudlova and Barella are in the same boat as far as caliber of fighter. And they can even fight for a contract.
I do too. I think both of those women are in the same boat as well. I just... I don't know. I think that's an okay fight with me. Is Lauren Murphy at 125?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's an okay fight with me.
Give them about 3 months.
I'll take Shevchenko. You can have Lauren Murphy.
I like it. You heard it here first. So, anything left with either one of those ladies moving forward? I feel like we already matchmake them.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
On to 205 pounds. We had Kennedy Zenjuku coming against Draco Stokcic. This is one of the few times we've ever seen 2 points taken away. I'm actually pretty surprised about this. There was 3 groin strikes in the fight. It ended up being a 29-26 type of event. Some of the most gnarly scorecards we've seen in a long time. Ended up turning into a striking event, essentially. Stokcic surprised that he lost at the end of this, but he had 2 points taken. How do you expect to win if you don't finish at that point? People said that he should have been disqualified after that 3rd groin strike, which I could have seen easily as well.
I wouldn't have complained about it.
Agreed. There's nothing more memorable than the groin strikes in this fight. Like, neither guy really showed out. Zenjuku, I'm going to be super tentative off, and Draco as well. I've been 100% right on fading him both fights, and it's just... doesn't pull the trigger. He's
I'm
going to
say it on the audio right now. I just thought about it. We've had a power surge a few times, and I was thinking nothing will be affected by it, but our audio could go...
I thought it was Shevchenko.
That could be. That could be. But I was thinking like, oh, our visual people watching it, they'll see it happen, but the audio people might be like, what the F happened with the audio just then? I didn't hear what they were saying.
Oh, yeah, that Florida weather in full effect.
Yeah, okay.
You're lucky we could be having tornadoes around here, and we're here putting out the info for you fans that are listening, so thank you very much.
And I think this is a perfect fight for us to get off topic, because it was the most boring fight of the night.
It was grueling.
It was so bad.
It was pretty rough. Either guy moving forward, I mean, again, super, super tentative. Stokcic might have one more bout. I mean, 2 decisions against... I don't think Zenjuku
maybe
looked good
only
at
because
all.
of weight class. Yeah, I don't think either guy looked good.
At all. So, in Newark, we ended up having the refs really mess it up. The refs are Herb Dean. The Black Iguana striking again. He was also the ref for this fight. This wasn't the only time we were going to hear Herb Dean's name, but this is kind of where it started, where it was like, whoa, that should be 2 points. Whoa, that should be a DQ. What's going on? So, how did you feel about the commission, the ref? We know that their toweling duties are under par by the standards.
They were all a couple seconds late on stoppages with the submissions, but I didn't think it was the worst night. There was not one call of where a decision went where I felt like, that's a robbery! And so I thought it was all right. It was an okay night.
So the judges were fine, but the refs were just a little off.
But it's just Herb Dean.
Yamasaki would have been proud.
It's just Herb Dean. I feel like Herb Dean's off a lot. Sad to say.
Well, you've been on that train for a while.
Everybody.
You've been against the Black Iguana for a while.
I don't know anybody. I know people.
I used to be on the Herb Dream train. I used to say he was one of the elite guys, but he started messing up probably like 6 months ago, and he really hasn't corrected that ship. He's kind of stayed on that train. Matt Hughes, get out the way.
6 months ago, you were being so kind. You were being so kind. So kind. 6 months ago.
So anything left
Got
with
me.
with any of those guys?
Herb Dean's had a rough 6 months, you guys. Ease up. Ease up. That's your shirt. It's just been a bad 6 months.
It's just been a bad 6 months.
Okay, go on.
Anything left with those 205ers?
No, we made that fight more interesting already.
On to 155 pounds. We had Scotty Holtzman coming in against Dong Hyun Ma. Ma coming in overweight by 3 pounds, being the last guy to weigh in. Almost getting exposed on the scale. This was a doctor stoppage. Round number 2. The graphic tells you everything you need to know. That eye was swollen shut in the second round. Ma kept wanting to fight, but you could not see. It was on the stool in the second round as well. Yeah. This was actually gonna toot a little bit of the LaTB's horn in here because the people that I follow, we were at times in the top 100 of, what was it, Verdict? Starting these fights? Both of us.
Yes. We were at Verdict. If you follow Verdict, and Verdict doesn't ever shout out love to us that they do some of the other MMA podcasts. I've noticed Verdict. But what other MMA podcast can say all the hosts finish in the top 10% of the country? This one. Right here.
LaTB.
We both got belts.
Easy. This was one of them. Ended up having Scotty Holtzman finishing in the second round. Predicted that. I did miss one bout, that Njuku one, but I still missing one bout because I missed that, and I would have had that right with Njuku's decision. So it could have been higher, but you live and you learn. There's just so many things I have to always be like, oh,
you didn't have Njuku?
I didn't pick it on my Verdict in time.
Oh, shit. You would have had 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
what I would have been even higher than where I was
at. Yeah. So. And not anyone I follow got 100% on the main card.
Yeah, I would have.
You did.
So, it was a good one.
Shouting out props. Yeah, like, I feel like I had a good night overall on Tapology, but you got 100% on the main card. That is... If you just stayed main card, if they had main card.
If they had main card only, it would have been money bags. Yeah, money bags. Ended up still winning some cash throughout the night, but it wasn't.
DuckTales, but it wasn't DuckTales. I was trying to think of the other one. Is DuckTales a Scrooge McDuck?
It is DuckTales.
DuckTales. Yeah, you would have been all DuckTales.
Whoop, diving into a pot of money, or a bank vault full of money. So Scotty Holtzman really coming through, being a big favorite, being on a lot of my cards all over, everywhere. It was a pretty one-sided fight there.
Sauce? I think he's putting everything together right.
I would agree, but Ma also isn't. I don't know if it's.
I was liking everything Ma was doing, except for the eye thing. I thought his hands were looking good, and he was putting in some really dangerous shots there for a minute.
Yeah, it was a scrap. It was a fun scrap.
It was a good fight until the moment of no return, and he ended up with a vagina on his eye. I was like, "Damn, camel toe." You have to look at the picture to really get that joke.
Anything left with those guys, they can fight anybody they want. On to 185 pounds, we had the dirty split of the LaTB podcast here with Gerald Mershart coming in against Trevin Giles. I said Giles is good on top. You said, isn't everybody? He was doing his best work when he was on top, but as soon as he got his back taken, he had like a arm triangle set in there in that third round. This was one of those they called a late stoppage there. Giles going all the way to sleep. Mershart holding up his legs. That was in the third round.
And I am going to mock Dom Cruz right now because I've never seen in the years I've been watching a fighter grab another fighter's legs and hold him above his head after he submitted him to sleep. And then we noticed Dom say it after the next submission of the night. He needs to grab his legs and hold him up. And then I was mocking that. Is that going to be the new thing we start seeing? Is that they come in after a submission to sleep and watch somebody hold their legs up?
It's a 3-piece combo essentially.
I didn't hear that as much as I thought I was going to.
Because people have started to realize how cringy it is, and Cruz killed it in that one UFC show.
What makes you cringe more? 3-piece combo, who the fuck is that guy, or I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
3-piece.
3-piece makes you cringe the most?
It's the most.
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers is my favorite of those. If it's used right.
I agree.
If it's used appropriately.
That's what. Yeah, I agree. That one's the best one out of them all.
But that fight did go a lot like. I felt like if you listen, between us both, we called this fight pretty dead on because it also Mearshart got his ass kicked until his submission.
Until he won.
We both kind of, the only difference between what we said is I was just like, and he is a human punching bag who can take a beating and will get that submission.
Exactly.
That's it.
But we were both right because I was like, yeah, that's going to happen. And then Giles is going to lose right at the end. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
This was one of my fights that helped double my money on DraftKings.
I played Giles Mearshart on a couple, but
Giles.
not enough.
Anyway.
I had Giles on a couple as well. That was a close one. It was... Ooh,
and Herb Dean. Herb Dean involved in this one.
Look at Herb. Look at Herb in the graphic.
He's like, oh shit, I killed another man.
I
done killed another man.
Another one. So, with these guys, Mearshart, who do you give at 85 pounds?
I still don't know. Mearshart's just going to be one of those guys that he could be on a main card of a ESPN event, or he could be on a prelim of a pay-per-view. That's his role.
Yeah.
I think he's worked up a good enough name, and he's going to be dangerous for all 3 rounds. So that's what people want to see. It's just weird. It's that flash submission attempt where all of a sudden, fight over.
Mearshart always has that in his back pocket. On to 155 pounds, we ended up having Narast Hapkaras coming in against Joaquin Silva. We were both saying this was going to be closer than the odds made it, and Narast proved us wrong, landed that left hand early in the second round. First round was pretty close. Both of these guys were actually exchanging pretty well amongst each other, but I did feel like that harder shots laning were by Hapkaras, putting a good game plan together, framing off of those takedown attempts, which weren't that good at all. Having GSP in the corner, Hapkaras was getting a lot of pump from the fans, a lot of love. Narast, I think a lot of other people see a Baby Gas coming on the way. He's not going to be an underdog. Well, he wasn't for this one, 2-1 favorite. I was actually surprised with the size of Silva. It is unbelievable that guy makes 155 pounds to me. If he pops soon, I'm not
surprised at all.
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
Bring it back around. Bring it back around.
What do you really take away from this one? I don't think Hapkaras was in too much danger. The exchanges these guys had while it lasted, though, were amazing. Watch the striking from both of them. I really like that I was saying, hey, this is more of a Dutch versus a Muay Thai style, because look at it. It did turn out that way. I feel like we were calling a lot of these right.
You did. I thought this fight was really great. And did you see afterward, Narast was backstage and GSP ran up to him with a marker and
asked him to sign
will you sign my shirt?
I did not. Yeah. That's so dope.
It was super cute. It touched my heart a little bit. I even told my wife, I was like, do you see that? And she's like, oh, is he getting to sign his fan's shirt? I'm like, that's GSP. She even knew. She was like, oh, that's cute.
That's dope. That's really awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
We'll have to put that out on that beat.
Yeah,
MMA.
He's a dangerous. He's dangerous.
Yep.
He's gonna. But I don't think he's gonna sneak up the division. I heard some people saying his style's a lot like Kelvin, and I just disagree.
I disagree with that too. Completely.
I almost think it's better. Kelvin has a cleaner boxing style, but I like what you were saying. He has more of that Dutch kickboxing style, and I think that it's different.
Of course it's different. Of course it's different. And even in boxing, fighters fight differently from California to Cuba. Like, it's a different style. It's still boxing, but it's a different style. You go to Philly, you get the Philly shell. It's a different style. So
from Cuba to Qatar.
There it is.
From Egypt to Illinois.
You're going to, again, the same disciplines. So, prospect for days, everybody's seeing it with Baby Gas. Silva, I think, wins a lot of other fights in the UFC still. I think he comes out, if they make him an underdog in a lot of other spots, going to be picking this young man. He's still got a long career.
I thought he was 42.
Oh, again, Brazilian. If he has to take a little bit of a break due to drug testing, I wouldn't be surprised. At 155 pounds, moving on to the co-main event, we ended up having the lock of the night, the linchpin here at LaTB on both of us, and we do not talk to each other before we post our cards. Ever. So our linchpin, we don't agree. We hear
each other's picks on the show,
sure.
But as you guys know, if you follow us, that doesn't stay the same all the way through. So we don't talk to each other before we do our full picks I don't look at your cards at all. I do my picks and I usually post them right after you send me yours.
I would say though that we do talk to each other a little bit, but it's weigh-ins and it's not forming our cards. It's just like, did you see this guy? He looks bad.
Yeah.
Did you see this guy? He looks bad. And that's it. So we both independently had the linchpin and it came through. We had Jim Miller send in Clay Guida into the next dimension. Herb Dean trying to put him in the grave.
This was another Herb Dean.
This was a brutal. I was being like, he's out. And then finally, checking that arm, it might have not been Herb Dean. It might have not been. It might have not been, but either way, I'm going to put it on you, Black Iguana.
It was the energy of Herb Dean.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot residual.
I was about to call him Jeremy Stevens. That's how good he looked. How good did Jim Miller look?
So the interesting thing, Jim Miller, I thought, as you were saying, was going to lay down the gloves in there at all the interviews. And then I was like, oh, that's perfect. A way out on a win. And of course, he gets the win and is like, I'm back, guys. I'm going to make a run for the title. No, you beat Clay Guida. You beat Clay Guida. There's a difference.
Go out. You're in your hometown. You could have walked away. You looked good. You looked young. Your whole family was there. Your friends were there. Everything was right. You ruined your fairy tale. Don't BJ pin yourself, Jim Miller.
Agreed. 1,000,000%. I mean, if they give him not anybody in the top 10, because I think Miller can still give those guys hard fights, but those are dog fights that I don't think he can. When he gets into those dog fights, he can't go into 3 rounds. Against a Clay Guida, he could have done that. Yeah, because it's Clay Guida. Against a Diego Sanchez, sure. Actually, Diego Sanchez, Jim Miller.
There you go.
There it is.
Done.
There it is. And then they both retire.
Double gloves.
Yeah, exactly. Double retirement. Double retirement.
Would I know there has to be a name that it's 2 R's or
double R.
Double D, or double dunk or something, but it has to be 2 D's. Still.
Double dip.
Yeah, something.
Dipping out of here.
It's the double dip.
We out. So.
Jim Miller, you ruined your fairy tale right there.
1,000,000%.
And he looked so handsome that I don't know what happened. It's like he looked like. He used to be a blonde guy or something, and now he's dark. No, he's just not cut his hair.
He'd come straight in from freaking being a carpenter.
I was liking me some Jim Miller. I'm like, look at you, Jim Miller. You look good in retirement. Oh.
I guess I'm gonna keep fighting. I got a bunch more fights left. Jim Miller, come on. So
Jim Miller, BJ Penn. That's my fight.
I honestly no, because I don't want BJ Penn in there at all.
He'll get choked out.
Exactly. Brutal. Absolutely brutal fight. Linchpin, though, came through. He would let me cash everywhere. Saw that coming. Clay Guida hopefully also takes a step away after this one, if he can. If they put him in against a lot of other people other than BJ Penn, Clay Guida's probably losing those fights at this point of his career as well.
Yeah.
Anything left with those guys?
No.
On to the main event. We ended up having 5 rounds go down at 170 pounds with Colby Covington making America great again against Robbie Lawler.
Making my DraftKings cards great
Making the DraftKings cards the greatest. We had record-breaking strike statistics with Colby Covington throwing the most strikes ever attempted in a 5-round fight, landing the most as well, attempting 533, landing 513. Unbelievable statistics for Colby Covington here. If you're listening to LaTB, you're making money. We try to tell you he was a plus 200 underdog. A lot of people were trying to sway the line the other way because, again, all those other affiliations, but the better fighter, especially at this point in time, the guy that we can tell you, hey, he's not going to go in there and just get in a firefight. He did for 3 punches, then took him down 2 rounds. After those 2 rounds were done, that's when Colby stopped trying to take him down as much. After he landed 10 takedowns in a row, he was like, oh, okay, now Robbie doesn't have any pop in his punches. Now I can just land more strikes than anybody ever has in any fight.
10 of 20 takedowns and 268 or 222 significant strikes of 568 thrown or something crazy statistics. And for every intents and purpose, we saw the 10 takedowns coming. Most people did. Well, most people didn't, but we did. We saw 10 takedowns coming. What I didn't see, and I have to give Colby mad credit for, His striking, he outstruck one of the best strikers in the 170 division. In my opinion, he pieced him apart in every way, shape, or form. He had better hands. Colby, because his wrestling's so good, he can now just work on other aspects of his game and tighten it up. I thought his hands looked okay. I thought his hands looked better than they ever had.
Yeah, I don't want to put too much stock into it because Robbie Lawler also hasn't looked the same. Like, Robbie is 37 years old with fights that have taken things from him prior to this. I agree with what you're saying. Look the best he's ever looked, but it's almost a Clay Guida situation. Like, it's a guy who should be looking on his way out with Robbie Lawler because he was in there. I love LaTB tweeting. It looked like he was in quicksand in there because Robbie Lawler did just have his feet planted and was just bobbing like one of those clowns that punches up on you, and Colby just landed 3, 4 punches, 5 punches, going
10
to the
punches,
takedown.
20 punch combinations.
No retaliation.
He couldn't budge.
Yep.
He couldn't budge. He was shut out in any way, shape, or form that you cut it. And I think Robbie should have gotten on out of there. And I've been saying it for a while. And I've been called a Robbie Lawler hater. And I don't know if you guys want to see what I've been saying. But I also give Colby the credit that he pieced him apart. It wasn't even close.
It was not close. I cannot believe that people were trying to give any rounds to Robbie Lawler. Because I'm like, there's no way. There was even actually, was it a 44-50 a scorecard? There was a 10-8 round in there?
50-44, yeah. 1-50-44, 2 50-45.
So 1 10-8 round, but everything else
I gave 1 10-8 round.
You did it, agreed?
It was unbelievable to me. I thought Robbie was out on his feet at a few times. There was some okay kicks in there, some okay spinning things, great ground and pound, better wrestling everywhere.
How did you feel about the "you suck" mantra coming out for Colby Covington and
He's owning the full heel thing. He has the Trump brothers ringside. You know, love it or hate it, there's half of an audience of Americans, or less than half if you want to get technical, and people are going to get all splitty hairs with me. You know what I should say, less than half of voting Americans. Whatever the statistics are, that's a huge chunk of the audience. And so some people say that this is all fake and Colby's just putting it on. And some people like this is the real him and believe like his best friend's Jorge Masvidal. Like
a Cuban American.
Yeah, like there's something about the whole thing that people say like Colby's the real nicest guy and this is kind of his WWE shtick. Whatever, love it or leave it or whatever you feel about it. If he can get you to tune in, so people. The funniest thing too, and you guys can all, I feel like, suck it because we've been on the Usman train forever and everybody hated on Usman for how long? 3 years now. Everyone's been hating on Usman. He's so boring. He's so everything. And now it's like their least favorite. When he went up against Woodley, they're like, oh, well, Usman
is going to lose easy. Yeah. He's a 2-1 underdog. And we're like, here, LaTB, play Usman. Play Usman.
I played Woodley on that. I want to always just ride with it and be like, yeah. But then I chickened out at the end. But Usman did just he stole Colby's route. Like, Colby knew he could beat Woodley, and he would have done it in that exact same manner that you just saw there.
Exactly.
And so I think it'll be whose wrestling's better, and you think it's Usman's?
This is the really hard part. This is it's a Spider-Man versus Spider-Man type of fight. But
it is in a lot of comparison.
But I would say Usman has knocked out someone in Marias. So has Colby, and I believe earlier in his career, maybe 2 people. Colby, the hands are pretty even. The output's a little bit. I think the output is the only edge I can slightly give as of lately. What I've seen to Colby, that's a close fight. That's gonna be 3-2 rounds. So it's going to be like middle rounds are going to give up that fight, but I think it's a decision type of a fight.
I think Colby can beat Usman on pure cardio and aggression. Like, their style is so similar. I think he can just wear Usman out. And I think he is a little better with his hands than Usman is.
I could see that as well. That's a really close fight, though. Really close one.
It's gnarly.
Dead
I know
even.
Everybody wants to hate on Colby, but...
Is it why? Because he was talking trash on Matt Hughes?
Well, did you see him and Usman afterwards?
Yeah, in the with Karen Bryant and
Yeah, and
Rashad
after
Evans.
the camera cut off too.
No, I didn't see
And
the
they
after.
still went out at it, and yeah, you can look at a whole bunch of backstage footage. That's really fun. And Colby, he's also really. Oh yeah, what about the Matt Hughes thing? So say what that is. I'll look up the exact quote while you're kind of.
Colby, in his post-fight speech in the octagon there, he was saying, hey, if you haven't been on the Colby Covington, you better get off. Like you and Matt Hughes, you need to get off the train tracks. Speaking of Matt's accident that recently happened, and fans that are thinking that he's just trashing a legend of Matt Hughes, a great guy. I thought that back in the day, but then I did some studying on Matt Hughes. We've talked about it here at LaTB. Matt Hughes is in that BJ Penn type of situation where it is not good. His wife left him recently after many years. He said.
Hey, let's talk about the lesson we learned tonight. Covington told John Anik. It's a strong lesson Robbie should have learned from his good buddy Matt Hughes. You stay off the tracks when the train is coming through, Junior. Don't matter if it's the Trump train or the Colby train. Get out the way.
Gold. Gold. That is so funny and so douchey and so hilarious.
And people are like, he's the king of cringe. And I'm I think he's doing a good job.
Agreed.
I think he looks like he's quick-witted, and it makes me laugh.
Nobody liked Triple H, but guess what? He was the highest paid athlete for a while. Why? Because you love to hate him. Shawn Michaels, one of the biggest heels of all time. Why? Because you love to hate him. That's just what he's doing, and he's getting paid, and ATT has finally made a standing. Because remember initially when, Noons and everybody was like, we're not going to work with that guy. What Colby did was get the whole team with Dan Lambert and be like, all right, all of you guys, I'm going to talk mad shit, but guess what? It's not about you guys. Look at wrestling. Look at how much money. And other people are taking notice at ATT. I guarantee it.
Yeah, we're gonna see more Colby Covingtons come through. Maybe not the same shtick, but taking the heel.
Exactly.
And I also, John Jones kind of take the heel, and people love to hate him like the Joker.
The guy who needs to do that, Greg Hardy. He needs to live it. He needs to own it. Exactly. He better be like, and you better watch your wives around me, boy.
He needs to come out in a wife beater.
Exactly. That's what I said.
And then rip it off
on the
when he's
on the other show when you didn't catch it. I was like, oh, maybe he should come out wearing a tank top, and I didn't want to call it a wife beater. Boom, boom.
Oh.
It would have been legit.
Awesome.
But yeah, he should lean into that persona for sure.
Then Matt Hughes tweeted out, not sure if Colby should have used my accident as fuel for his post-fight trash talk, but that was one heck of a fight. Hughes wrote on Instagram. Reminder, though, this is fighting world. People talk trash, and you got to have thick skin.
Thank you, Matt Hughes, because that's exactly the way you got to take it.
And I read both those quotes off of MMAmania.com, just so I'm not...
So, and it's the truth. It's one of those things that, hey, you just got to be okay with it. Guess what? They're both going to live. They're both going to live in it. And if anything, Matt Hughes got a bit more recognition there, and so did Colby. So, guess what? In the media world, they both win. That's exposure.
I think it's fine. I think that what Colby's doing, I love it. I think his style's good. Right now, I have him against Usman. I
don't think you're wrong.
But it's also kind of funny because if you look back, there was a whole season about to go down by what they are. Remember the Black Zillions versus the ATT?
Oh, loved it.
That's what will be going down. It's just the Black Zillions versus the ATT after that whole thing went down. So that's both Florida. Local gym, right there in the same neck of the woods.
Do you think they do that in Vegas or Florida, though?
They'll do it somewhere else.
Vegas. It's got to be Vegas.
Bull. It should be here, but I don't think that's either of their hometowns.
That's very true.
I mean, it'd be cool if they did it in Africa.
I don't think Colby could get there. I don't think he could come home, honestly.
He might say Africa's beautiful.
He's not going to come home. I don't think Colby can go out of the United States anymore, honestly. As far as UFC
I don't know. They say that's totally wrong. Like the yellow vest thing that's going on, and the people that are saying they love Trump in other countries and they wish they had a Trump because different regimes are taking over their country. I think the way we get media in the United States
Colby was sent out of Australia. They said, bye, Colby. We don't want you here.
Wasn't he sent away from the UFC?
The UFC sent him away. Thing? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think him and Verdum were sent away because of the boomerang thing.
True.
Yeah, from Australia. I don't think he was necessarily kicked out of the country. I don't know.
It sounds better. It adds to the legend of Colby Covington.
Yeah,
who's going to be...
He's banned in country. He's like
exactly.
president. He's like a war hero. Or a war villain, a war criminal.
Which, one of the best lines that Colby did in his post-fight press, it says, I do this for the troops, I support the troops. So, regardless of what side you're on, if you're in the United States...
You are so right. That was the funny part of the audience. They're like, boo, we hate you, Colby, boo. And he's like, and this one goes out to the troops. And they're like, oh, this bitch made me clap for him. That was kind of funny, in my opinion, that he said that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how people don't get it.
I totally agree as well.
And the other thing I have to say about the ATT, where people are like, oh, look, the Black Zillions won. And who was the Black Zillion that won? Oh, yeah, it was Usman. So one of the funny things, though, is like Colby wasn't in that season. He was already fighting in the UFC. Like, none of the guys, Usman fought his way from the camp. So, I don't know.
So,
should be a good fight.
We were steering you guys on the wrong path. We were telling you last week, we finally are getting a break. And guess what? Scheduling's all wrong. The UFC decided to stick a couple more in there. We're going to have...
How did we not know about it? They did not put enough promotion.
They haven't been promoting it. We have the second half, the better half of the Shevchenko sisters.
You know what I have to say? Kudos to Valentina for not being a limelight stealer.
Agreed. She wasn't
She did a
yelling
great
in the
job.
corner.
She stood back and let her sister have her limelight.
Totally agreed.
She didn't dance. She didn't, take the microphone.
She didn't, hey.
Yeah, she's trainable too.
Definitely still growing in there. She's going to be main event in a rematch in one of her only losses ever against Liz the Gorilla Carmouche in Uruguay. They're going to be at Montevideo, a 13-card bout.
And to circle real quick back around, do you think it's time for Robbie to get on out of it?
Yeah, of course. I feel like that was already implied.
Okay,
He's been 37 since he was 19.
It's time.
It's so time for Robbie Lawler to go. Hopefully he can get on that Chris Cyborg train, because we didn't even talk about how she has officially not been picked up by the UFC, releasing old tape of when Dana White and Joe Rogan were talking shit.
Did we talk about it? And she said I think we did.
I think we did it personally. I don't think we talked about it on the show, but officially Cyborg no longer in the UFC. She's now had offers from Bellator, guaranteed. I don't know if PFL's talked about it, but it was really stemmed from Cyborg re-releasing those jokes, that slander that Dana was. But the thing that really sucks about Cyborg is they already got through that. She's fought 3 times since that happened, and she was okay with cashing every one of those paychecks. So what the fuck? Like, why bring it up now? What was the reason for that? I know we took a left turn all of a sudden.
I know. I don't really... Yeah, it did happen. But I think Brendan Shaw brought it all back up.
You know me and B Shaw ain't got... We got
I
issues.
wanted to stick up for him with certain things like the streaming. I don't think was his fault, even though I watched him do it too. I don't think he personally did it, but maybe. But I do think it was personally him that brought up, like, they were so mean to Chris Cyborg, and her daughter's getting picked on in school, and people are asking her daughter if her mom has a dick.
Her adopted mother, because it's her sister's kid. That irks me too. She didn't. That's a different. Is it different? I guess it's.
I don't know. I just think Twitter, I just think social media might be the downfall of all of us. If people went on and you got to hear a note in their voice when they said it, if Cyborg was like, it really hurt my feelings, and they whatever. I don't know. If you got to see some kind of personal touch to it, but it's like texting. It's cold. It's like Twitter is kind of cold. You have to do it in a certain amount of
If you're going to be in the limelight in general and you don't expect people to talk shit. No, I'm talking, you're trying to grow your YouTube presence. You're trying to grow every type of presence. Hate's going to come the other way. And she gets it and doesn't handle it well.
A lot of the fighters, they are under an impression that they're special and they have a personal relationship with Dana White, where I feel like Dana White's a CEO at a company and these other people are secretaries. He doesn't give a shit about them. He's this big guy sitting on top of the pyramid. He doesn't care about all these... The
only guys that he cares about are the ones that break records in the box office.
John Jones, DC,
money fighters.
Certain few fight. I agree. Otherwise, I feel like he hardly knows a lot of these fighters' names.
Yep. Stipe with the belt, he openly is like, I don't talk to Dana. What do I talk to that guy for? But Conor, when he's fighting Mayweather and breaking all sorts of box office records with proper 12, yeah, Dana White's like, yeah, I got 5% of that, by the way. I got 5% of that company. He's my best friend. He's my best friend.
That's what
and Cyborg is like, no, all YouTube for me. Don't talk about me. It's all respect Cyborg. That's all she ever does. She doesn't ever like, if people post old videos of her, she's just like, why you tell them about my page? Like, she's always a victim.
McGregor, is that Seagram 7? What was the weird, what kind of gin is it, or whiskey is it again?
Proper 12?
Yeah, but where is it? It's not Seagram 7. What is it? It's
a certain whiskey that was aged barrel for 20 years.
Well, to be Irish whiskey, it has to be in a barrel and aged there for a certain amount of time. Seagram's?
You would know.
It's one of the companies. It's one of those, but just a little thing that I was thinking. Stock tip: you could do like minimal research and find out what company pushed the first batch of proper 12 until he has his own barrels that are aged and done there. So it'll take a while to get those things. But you could, before a Conor McGregor fight was coming again, but you'd get the inside info just by being a UFC fan.
Totally.
And you'd be like, oh, there's murmurings, McGregor DS3. The second Ariel made that announcement, you go buy that stock of the whiskey that puts out the
insider tips in here. You got to be careful.
Do you think that would be a good
I think that's a good little hot tip.
Off topic.
A different gambling system.
I feel like we already magged today. It's dangerous.
The heat's coming. The heat is coming. Thank you for sticking with us to the end. We're going to have another one right around the corner again.
We're going to be talking about Shevchenko.
Woo!
Or, I don't know, Liz Carmouche's Scary Lady.
The Gorillas put in some heavy performances.
You already know. If you've been listening to this show, you already know.
LaTB!